it is 6 o'clock on Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting of the Select Board to order. In attendance, we have Randy Iser, Jane Nevinsmith, myself, Amy Parsons, Joyce Chunglo, and Molly Keegan. All right, we're going to start with 2.1, a solar discussion for town projects. And I believe, is John Parrott on?
Yep, I am. Thank you.
Sorry?
If I can just introduce you to Jonathan, and
Can you
Nick
make the speaker big?
will be on too. If I can just give you a little bit of background information for this presentation. So going back about 3 years, the town, there was some interest by Eversource to look at the landfill. I met Jonathan through another mutual friend. Jonathan will explain his background and where he's coming, you know, the knowledge that he's providing. But we've also been dealing with the senior center. We had difficulty getting bids back for the solar for the senior center. The library has not gone out to bid, but also is having some roof issues that will get resolved, and we'll be putting solar on there. But in the meantime, Jonathan and I kind of connect every 6 or 7 months just to see what's going on out there. And we connected probably a couple months ago about the landfill because he has information regarding Eversource in the landfill. So he'll talk a little bit about what our options are. We're definitely having difficulty doing it separately. We've had a couple meetings. We had an initial meeting with Jeff from the Climate Change Committee. And so we then met with Nick. Is Nick on, John?
Yes.
From Sunbug, who,
Yep.
I hope I pronounced that right, Nick. Who also provided more information about the solar industry in general, with the understanding that we're looking to see what's best for Hadley. What can we do? What's workable? So this is just some kind of a fruition of some recent conversations we've had. I felt it was important for you guys to hear some of this information. You're not making any decisions tonight. It's just information for you guys to help as we move forward and what's available to the town, any projects. So how is that as an introduction, Jonathan and Nick?
Sure. That works for me. Sure.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
well, thank you, everybody. And thank you, members of the Select Board and guests as well. My name is Jonathan Parrott. I'm familiar to the Pioneer Valley. I spent a little too long at UMass Amherst. I think many of you probably know what I'm talking about. I now live in Chesterfield with my lovely wife, who is a school teacher in Northampton. So I came to this by, I guess on some level happenstance. I once worked for the state of Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, who craft the regulations and rules associated with energetics, whether it be solar, wind, biomass, solar hot water. All of those things are incentivized and managed through the Department of Energy Resources. It's a sister agency to DEP or DOT, DCR. Those all should be familiar acronyms. Anyway, one of the challenges I think that we all have is that we are intentioned and committed to combating climate change. How to put one foot in front of the other is the dilemma, because it is a complicated arena, to say the very least. It's expensive, but it's necessary. And our transition from fossil fuels to a renewable heating and transportation economy is not going to be easy by any means. But I am grateful that the town has put forward an idea, and I think that one of the locations is excellent. And I think actually, you know what? Several of the locations. So just to be clear, I'm somewhat familiar with your Cap landfill along the dike. It is in total 14.6 acres, understanding that probably 2 or 3 of those acres are for the transfer station and unassailable. So the rules in Boston favor the installation of solar in what we'll call disturbed areas, whether it be a rooftop or a Cap landfill. And so the subsequent tariffs associated with that make it more lucrative because, quite frankly, those projects are more expensive to build. And so the incentives offset that to drive the development of sort of best location. But just to be really, really clear, as we move forward into our energetic new future, there needs to be a lot of solar. So just for clarity, Maura Healey, early in her administration last year, in a speech, talked about the need for a gigawatt of deployed solar per year to meet our 2050 goals. That's great, except not a lot of people understood that what she just said was 5,000 acres of solar panels per year. That's hard, really hard. And so I think it's meritorious to put it on rooftops, to put it on landfills, but that's just not going to get it done. But it is where we should start. And so that's where we are this evening. And so there's rooftop that direct adheres to the roofs, and then I don't want to get too deep into the details because it gets complicated in a big hurry, but can be behind the meter of a building to prevent the meter from spinning or to reduce the meter spin. An array on a landfill, there isn't much of a load there at all. So that electrical production will go into the grid and can be witnessed at other meters through net metering, which is sort of a magical desktop exercise where production in one place is offsetting consumption in another. And so the landfill's production can offset other municipal buildings' electrical loads. But again, even if it's 10 acres of solar, there's a lot of consumption if we start moving ourselves with electricity. And I think that the town can probably see that their electric bill associated with the air source heat pumps for the new library is considerably higher than the electric bill used to be. Because now you're heating with electricity, albeit more effectively and efficiently than resistance heat, but it's still electricity, and electricity is expensive if you're buying it. So that's the long and the short. I live in Chesterfield, so not far away. It's always nice to come down to the valley and to meet civilization. Thank you. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to bark out. There's a lot to be learned, and I try to learn all the time. We'll probably talk about batteries too, because it's great to have solar panels, but we don't have sun every day, and you certainly don't at night. But batteries, utility scale batteries, are part of the solution for delivering responsibly created power at all times. So it's a thing that I think we're all going to be talking about across the Commonwealth.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
How are you tonight? Thank you for
Well.
coming.
Sure.
So the school is looking into geothermal.
Okay.
How does that fit into this scope of what's
Sure.
going? Because
So
what they're looking into can actually take in a lot of our other public buildings.
yeah. So geothermal, just to make everyone more familiar, it is a process. It's a heat pump, just like an air source heat pump, but it's using heat energy from the ground instead of from the air. So there's some efficiency gains because the ground, especially if you go down 3 or 4 feet, is fairly consistent in temperature. It is generally 50 degrees or so, when the air outside right now is a lot below 50 degrees. So the energy's more available. Just note though that I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you harvest heat out of the ground to heat your building, but you don't have a cooling load in the summer to put the heat back, you will gradually chill that ground. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. You will harvest the energy out of it, and you will deplete the ability to harvest energy proportionally. So heat pumps, whether they be air source, geothermal, or otherwise, run on electricity. They condense so an air source heat pump is effectively an air conditioner running backwards. It is condensing a liquid and producing a heat dissipation need. And so you're doing essentially the same thing with geothermal. So there's a considerable amount of electrical load for those two systems. You are harvesting ambient energy from the ground or the air, but there's a lot of pumping and concentration necessary. So the electricity bill will be a lot higher, a lot higher.
Can you
So-
do that in conjunction with solar? Or no?
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. But the reality is we would have to look hard to see what sort of offset the landfill's production might be able to do. It might be able to offset the geothermal cost of operation, and it might not. We have to run the numbers.
Okay, I have a question for you. I was interested in what you just said about the thermal mass in the ground. Is it possible to change a ground source heat pump to air for the summer for cooling?
Well, you would have double the equipment, number one. And it would be better to put the heat back into the ground. That's what you want the cooling load to return the BTUs to the ground. And I'm being somewhat theoretical, but there's some truth to it as well. So the dilemma of New England is we have a greater heating demand than a cooling demand. UMass Amherst is experiencing that exquisitely. So as they imagine geothermal, they are learning that there's a delta between the heat and the cooling load, especially when a lot of the buildings they have heating systems but do not have cooling systems. An elementary school is that but worse, because you have, you know, a really low residency in the summer. I mean, the kids are off, right? And so the building gets some use, but do you need to chill the whole building? No, not really.
Thank you.
Geothermal, the challenge of geothermal is the cost of installation. It is very expensive. Okay, next question. Thank you. That was a great question.
So can I make a recommendation? It might be just to hear more from both Nick
Yep.
and Jonathan, and then leave it open for questions.
Sure.
Do you have anything else to offer?
Sure,
Jonathan,
I'll-
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
That's good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that in some conversations, we talked about a bunch of different potential solar targets. And I think when you're talking about solar, you're talking about targets. What's a good target? What's a bad target? A good target is one that has a good amount of surface area for the panels, if it's a rooftop, or land area, if it's a ground mount. And if the goal is to offset as much of the town's electricity as you can, then obviously a very small target is helpful, but it's, you know, there's a transaction cost to every array. So what you really want to do if you're going to do a couple of projects is find the big wins. And what we discussed in a previous conversation with Carolyn was a couple of different possibilities. One was the library. We looked at the seniors, looked at the parking lots in between the two, which are an interesting target. We looked at the landfill and we looked at the elementary school. And all of these are pretty good targets for solar power. And would be, I mean, there's no such thing as an easy solar project, but they would lean towards straightforward. The rooftops of the library and senior center are relatively small. So while they would be perfectly good solar projects or solar targets, you're not going to offset a lot of your town's electricity through them. The parking lot in between if you were to put up parking canopies, some of you may have seen those at shopping areas or what have you. They're not subtle, so that's something to be considered. But you could get a decent amount of solar out of those two parking lots. And then the big targets are the two remaining. The elementary school's roof is an excellent target. Obviously, have to understand the age of the roof, which comes into play, structural integrity of the roof in terms of its ability to support both snow load and solar simultaneously. Typically, a relatively recently built building is not going to have an issue with that, but it always has to be checked. And then the landfill, of course, is the big target, and would make for an excellent solar project. Although again, it's a landfill, so the complexities there can be many. But landfills have been capped with solar many times. So that's just a quick thought on how to look at solar, where to put it, and what a good target looks like, depending upon how much power or how much energy you're after.
I think it's important to remember scale here, that The schools are going to be encouraged to have electric school buses soon. You're going to have electric police cruisers and DPW vehicles. It's going to be incentivized and expected, quite frankly. And so just for reference, if you imagine a home that has a decent south-facing roof, you probably have enough roof to offset your current electrical load within your home, to run your refrigerator, to run your lights, your computers, things like that. But if you want to put air source heat pumps or a geothermal system into your home, you're going to need another roof. And then if you're going to plug in a Tesla or a Ford Lightning, you'll need another roof. And so that's the dilemma, is that there just isn't enough roof space on a home to deliver the generation needs for all of our goals. So just be mindful of what we're looking at. I also want to clarify or just add to something that Nick just did. Nick knows far more about this. He's in the industry. I'm just the nerd. So be mindful of the time lag. If you see a rooftop and say, hey, I'd like to put solar on there, you're probably a year away. If you see a field or a landfill and you say, I'd like to put solar on there, you're probably 3 years away. Just because that is the amount of time that the managers of the grid, a group called ISO New England, require to evaluate the impacts, disruptions, benefits that your project will provide to the grid. That's a long time. Just to be clear, that's what the lag looks like. Even if you wanted it on your home, you're months away, a year out. That's just the deal.
So I have a question about putting it on schools because they do have large roofs.
Yep.
What about the issues of the batteries near children and the potential damages that could happen?
Sure, fair question. No, I appreciate the question. We are, quite frankly, habituated to dangers in our current lives. We go to gas stations. We have oil tanks in our basements. Those are dilemmas and threats, frankly, but we just normalize to them. Batteries are also a threat, a fire threat, frankly, and some may have concerns about electromagnetic radiation. I don't share that threat, but some people do. And so there is that concern. If that was an issue, the batteries could be housed in depending on scale, a separate building. A megawatt of battery is a shipping container, a 40-foot shipping container, a small one, as it were. And that megawatt of storage is a lot of storage. But if a utility scale project for to cushion the grid is 50 or 100 of those things lined up. It looks like a self-storage center. That's what a utility scale battery project looks like. And they're a couple $100 million. It's a lot of money. So solar is much less costly by comparison, but to be enrolled in the SMART program, that is one of the Commonwealth's incentive programs, you are obliged over a certain scale to have a battery as a component of the project. And the landfill project meets that expectation. You would need to enroll in SMART to have a battery that represents a minimum of 25% of peak capacity as a part of that project. The school is unlikely, and the library is definitely not going to need batteries. You may choose to have one, but you don't need to have one. And go ahead.
No, I'm hearing you.
Okay, good. Thank you. So batteries are part of the story, and they add to cost, but they add functionality. The question is, do you want a little battery with every solar, or do you want to have big utility scale, or both? I mean, there's a lot of learning and a lot of decision makings that the town are going to have.
Right.
Just for what it's worth.
But as John notes, the good news is that under the SMART program, if you want to derive full benefit, anything over 500 kilowatts AC has to be paired with a battery. But I think the only project we've discussed that would surpass that is the landfill. So the school could solarize its full capacity in terms of available roof surface without having to trip the threshold to require a battery.
Yep. And these are expensive. Just to be really clear, these are expensive projects. And why we're talking about the SMART program is that the enrollment in the SMART program, meeting the expectations of the SMART program, means that the subsequent power has attributes associated with it that are monetized by the utilities. So you have a secondary income stream effectively. And so it helps offset the cost. It's not just the avoided electric bill, but you have an income from selling those attributes. I'm oversimplifying it, to be truthful. But that's how you can increase the return of your investment. Do note that you're not going to make money with solar, but you will offset costs. And most importantly, and I think this is the thing that Carolyn and I talked about previously, is that you're normalizing, stabilizing, and making your future energy more predictable. Because I think we can all agree that our electric bills have gone up dramatically in the past several years. And so if you have a mortgage on a solar array, you know what your mortgage payment will be in 10 years, 25 years, whatever the note is. And so you've stabilized that expense. But if you just stay plugged in, you are beholden to whatever the Eversource bill might choose to be, and it's not going to go down. So the rates will go up, but if you stabilize your municipal expense by converting a power bill into a mortgage, you've stabilized that. That is perhaps a subtle but very important part of your conversation.
I think that's well said, John. I guess I would take issue with the notion that you're not going to make money on solar. Many of our customers engage in solar projects specifically as an investment vehicle to achieve a return. It's worth noting, however, that they have a tax appetite. And so when a town does not have a tax bill and therefore cannot leverage things like the investment tax credit, it's a slightly different game. It's not quite as easy to achieve the sort of rate of return that you might if the tax credit worked in your favor.
So, Madam Chair, if you put solar on your home, you can take a third of, so pretend it's a $30,000 solar array, just picking a number. You can write off $10,000 of that project on your taxes, more or less. So that's handy. You just have to wait till tax time and it's a third off. That's welcome. But because the town doesn't have that same tax liability, it becomes more complicated. You don't have the opportunity to write off a third of the project. You can sometimes sell that on a third marketplace, but you can also get a haircut because people don't want to pay full value. But there's financial mechanisms to help with that. But municipal projects are more difficult. Is what it is.
Now, as a result of that, there's a different approach to going solar, which is through what's called a power purchase agreement. And it's pretty much exactly like it sounds. You would sign an agreement where an investor owner would build and own the solar project on your landfill, on the roof of your school, on the parking lot of your library senior center, or what have you. They would own it. They would then sell you the power from that system at a rate that is less than what you are paying Eversource today. And therefore, you are getting a discount off your electricity. And it's a predictable rate because you're locking in a 20-year agreement that says exactly what electricity is going to cost every one of those 20 years. And there is there can be buyout provisions where after the owner has harvested the tax credits, there's an opportunity for the town to buy the array. And it can be quite lucrative thereafter, especially if there are years of smart incentive remaining. It wouldn't be worthwhile to get into the weeds on all of this, but it's important to understand that approach exists and is extremely popular.
I totally agree, but you can appreciate we're getting complicated in a big hurry. The town may not have the tax liability pathway, but could be sold on the third market. but you also have the opportunity to chase MVP funds. That's Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Funds from DOER, my old shop in Boston. And so there's different ways to skin the cat on this, to use a terrible term. But ultimately, the town needs to be introspective on what its goals are and what its desired outcomes might look like. And so that's sort of where we're at, is to sort of help inform, and you all can ask any questions you want and sort of figure out the path forward to meet the town's expectations and try and put it in perspective. Nick, can you just, shooting from the hip, what would the
Yeah.
project of the landfill cost?
The landfill looks like it can support something in the neighborhood of 2.5 megawatts.
And they cost what per megawatt?
The solar component of that is going to be in the low $2. So let's say
2 million.
225. So it's going to be oh,
6 million for the whole thing, right?
my calculator doesn't have enough light here. Hold on. Around 6 million bucks.
Yep.
Um,
Price went crazy real fast.
Can
I think we have a
Can I
question.
just have a couple clarifying questions on costs?
You are, please.
Oh, sorry, if you want to just say your name, and then if you want to just push the button,
Can you
make sure
hear me?
that it's green, if you want to push the button on top. Mm.
Down
Sorry,
there.
that do it?
Is it green?
Is it green? You might have to push and hold for a second.
Right.
It might be a
Not
push and
get
hold.
green.
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
Sorry about that.
Introduce yourself.
Michael Doctor, 113 Bay Road, and I also run Rural Aggregators in New England, which is involved in the solar sphere, but not in development. I just had a clarifying question. First of all, we are talking about big numbers. $6 million is kind of what we ran some back of the envelope numbers as well as part of the climate committee of Hadley. And we'd like to get together and share information at some point if that's possible. But it is my understanding that while there are several complicated relationships to off-sell your investment tax credits, and you generally get a substantial haircut in doing so from the investors who then take the profit from the project. My understanding is that with the Inflation Reduction Act that President Biden got through recently, that municipalities can and nonprofits can in fact take advantage of that tax credit without a tax liability, but in fact through a direct payment or some other mechanism through the IRS, which means that all that other complicated deal scenario that we've talked about is eliminated. I also wanted to point out that that while you're talking about how you're not going to make money on solar on a residential basis, that may be true. The town has access to bond interest rates that are substantially less than mortgage rates. So it begins to become a really favorable financial arrangement based on the numbers that we ran. And I just wanted, Nick, are you up to date on the investment tax credit and how that might impact a municipality-owned project?
I'm
Yeah, the
pretty
inflation-
familiar with that. And to my knowledge, that is a provision that has yet to be witnessed. And I guess I need to dial back any criticism I have of the make money. I just think that solar is a good idea, quite frankly. And so there's virtue behind it. I just don't want that. I don't want the town to approach this as if it's an income generator. It's a get rich quick. I think it's a good idea and it has financial merit. You're not going to make any money continuing to pay your electric bill. You might make money by putting a solar array, which is also, by the way, the right thing to do.
The Inflation Reduction Act was an amazing event for the solar industry. We had very, very high hopes that the means or the the approach or process by which someone took advantage of the provisions of the bill would be straightforward and relatively easy to understand, and it would be easy to engage with the appropriate agencies who will be doing the review. As it turns out, like many things government, it's more complicated than many of us might have hoped. As John noted, we have not seen direct pay in action yet. We will, and we will see the other benefits derived also in terms of the expanded credits for low income off-takers and so forth and so on. However, it's an application process for a number of the provisions, and there's some complexity to some of the non-applied for provisions. So I think all I'm saying is, as might have come out of John's mouth, you've got to take the IRA with a grain of salt in terms of whether or not you're going to realize it easily and in a straightforward fashion. You need a smart tax person who is familiar with it and who is committed to navigating it. And I think if you have that, the odds of achieving the tax credit as a municipality are good. They're not a slam dunk, and they're not guaranteed.
All right, thank you guys for your time. I know we do have another appointment here. We're a little late on that.
Further discussion, maybe they
but-
can talk to the point.
Yeah, do we want to have a further discussion another time?
That's up to the board. If you have more questions, it's certainly these.
With the climate control.
Would you guys like to, with the climate control committee? Climate change. Control.
Yes.
Climate control,
it,
we're
but-
trying.
They're all, be careful about is they don't have a posted meeting, so asking questions is fine, but yeah,
Mhm.
so.
This is certainly something for the town to consider pursuing. I know my wife and I have solar on our roof, both my brothers have large solar arrays, and you know, both as a family and as businesses, they have great value. I hope the town sees it the same way.
Thank you.
And I also just wanted to echo something that John said, that, you know, there's not enough room on people's houses to put all the solar that we need. And the kind of contribution that the landfill could make at a school, but especially the landfill, because we're talking about orders of magnitude in terms of the amount of impact we're gonna have, is very substantial. It could have a substantial impact, not just on our electric bill for the town, which is gonna save substantial money over time, but a significant environmental impact because it's a lot of electricity. And so, you know, we the climate committee would really recommend that as much solar as we can do is the optimum thing to do. And batteries are vital to the grid, because as the grid becomes more and more oriented toward alternative energy, solar and wind, it's not as reliable. So you need to have batteries out there to store the stuff that's being produced. And so that's also an important environment. While it is lithium, it does pose some risk. It's an important environmental step to provide battery backup to take off some of this electricity.
I think this is also a thing that I don't think the planning board has actually made any type of decision yet on these type of batteries that go with these solar projects. So this would be something that I think we would need to involve in it, that they would also have to be in the process of this.
Yeah, the planning board's been discussing it with the fire chief. They're very well aware of these issues.
Yeah.
So I think right now, the question before the climate change committee is, are you willing to work with these people to get information to bring back to us?
I think we're willing to work with anyone, and also the point of it being on disturbed land. The landfill, one of the good target sites, is really worth pursuing, rather than risking this on farmable land.
But we would be delighted to work with Sunlight just to see what, you know, kind of proposals they have. And I think it's important that the town keep an open mind about a couple different installers as well. I think probably the next step is to really have the town hire somebody, you know, we've done back of the envelope analysis, which are pretty, they show that it makes what makes a lot of sense. But somebody should, the next step would be to hire somebody that can actually figure out exactly what the town's load is, project what it's gonna be once their heat pumps and the chargers are put in down, and then build enough solar on the landfill and the school to meet those two demands. And it takes a long time, but it's gotta get started soon if you're ever gonna get to the end point. So it's important to get somebody involved and do what they call a single line drawing and submit that to the utility fairly early in the process, because that takes a long time, because they have to figure out what the grid's capacity is, where the substation is, and what's needed in order to accommodate all this additional electricity.
So do you have a general sense of how much it could cost somebody to do that?
So I'm gonna just go off, because that's a
Yeah.
little bit off the agenda.
Yeah.
If I can just kind of streamline this a little bit, this was just an introduction,
Right.
because that's been a very hot topic for, you know, pun
Yes.
intended, for Hadley, and I wanted to just let you know that there is conversations that are taking place, and I think it's a great idea, and that's why I've included them in the meetings preliminary. I do want to clarify when you made that statement about looking at other vendors. That was, so Nick is here as a courtesy. It was no intent that we were going to be hiring Nick. Nick is here strictly, this is what we often do with other vendors to give some educational aspects of it. But anything like that, the procurement for solar is a little bit different municipalities, so that we have a little bit more flexibility as we secure vendors. But I just wanted to be clear on behalf of Nick, he was not here to try to sell his business at all.
Okay.
This is John Parrott. Forgive me for speaking out of turn here. I appreciate the hiring an engineer of some sort to do a load analysis is a good idea. But if you put out an RFP saying, these are our targets, what could we generate from those targets and what would it cost, whatever you wish to ask? You can do that contemporaneously with doing your load analysis, because the load analysis is really going to be future. And if you get multiple bids from different developers, you're going to be able to get a for free, fairly quick load analysis of yourself to know, well, what's the maximum output we could get from the landfill or the school or the library? I wouldn't wait to have a person who gets paid to do the same thing that you can get for free.
Great idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
taking the
very
time
much for
tonight.
your time. And thank you, Climate Change Committee.
Thank All right.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Nick.
Sure.
Our
Happy to
pleasure.
help.
Anytime. Happy to come back.
Thank you.
Okay, we're
Bye.
gonna move on to 2.2, the appointment that we have for 6:30. It's a joint meeting with the Finance Committee to discuss the FY25 budget. I think if David's here, so I think you're gonna have to call your meeting to order.
Yep, I'll go ahead and call the Wednesday, January 17th meeting to order for the Finance Committee. In attendance is David Phil, Paul Benjamin, and Amy Fiden. And that's all I see for now. So there we go.
You need to do a roll call.
Oh, I do? Okay.
Yeah.
A roll call to call the meeting to order, or a roll call of who's here?
There needs to be a motion to call it. Well, you've done that motion. Now you need to do a roll call.
Okay. Amy?
Yes,
Paul?
Here.
Here. All right. And David, yes. I'm here.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
All right.
Linda is here. If you want to come on up to the front. Right.
I guess I'm here I'm going to provide preliminary information. I know this is primarily a discussion between the two boards, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I think it's helpful to start for a status update of where we stand right now. There are two documents that went on to board docs. I don't know that we need to show the the one which is the year to dates, which I usually provide quarterly, except to let you know that they indicate that we are at least on target and slightly better than the projections for both revenues and expenditures. That's been pretty much true over the last few years. But we're not quite as far ahead now as we have been in past. I think we're starting to catch up with ourselves. But we're doing well, so we're on target. So there's no particular concerns for changing course, such as if our revenues were well under or something, we might want to make a change of course for 24. But 24 is okay. So then the other chart, I know that one of the items on your agenda tonight was to discuss projected revenues and where we stand with revenues. And Jennifer, if we could show that one, I don't know that it's going to show very well at home, but I just think it should be up there if we're discussing it with the select board. I don't know how big it is. Right, thank you. Is that, yes, is that good? Okay, yeah, maybe down a little bit. Down a little bit so we can see the blue. Okay. All right, so the first column in green, the first green column is the 24 projected. That was what we had projected when we did the 24 budget. That's the year we're in right now. And that's the one that we are slightly ahead of using the year-to-date actuals in the second column. That's where we are halfway through the year. So for example, on the property taxes, 14.3 million, we've collected 6.78 million by the end of the second quarter. So that's about right. And then you could the second table is state aid. There's nothing we can do about that. It's rolling in each month and hopefully we'll get there. Looking ahead, I guess I should do in each case, I'll look ahead to 25. So just backing up a little bit, you don't have to change it, Jennifer, but the subject, yeah, okay. That we are looking at 15 million in that category. It includes an increase in new growth, and it also, in order to allow for the recent debt exclusion passed it, there's an increase in the debt exclusion income there. But I think it was, if you understand debt exclusions, it has to come in as additional taxes, but it's also going to be added in as into the budget. So it's basically a wash. Second category, the state aid, we kept the same for 25 because we haven't gotten any information yet on the cherry sheets for state. We're hoping the select board members attending this weekend will come back with some good information for us after your convention. And then the third is the largest as in takes up a lot of space. The local receipts is where each of the departments and our basically local receipts are what we collect, and they come directly into the town in the form of excise taxes and the various collections from departments. We have projected for 24, $19.1 million. There we go. It's coming up on the screen there. The first yellow bar. We have projected $19.148 million, and we are at $9.186 million right now, which is half-ish. And it's also we again have collected a higher percentage at this time of year than we had in prior years. And then are the amounts that we collect from our enterprise chargebacks, which we haven't collected any yet. And then the last category is the additional money that we have to put in to balance the budget and meet the budget that was voted. In the case of 24, we have voted, the budget is $20,720,736. And in order to meet that, in addition to all of the revenues that we collect and the enterprise chargebacks that we collect, we needed $1.19 million in free cash. Now, it's been a clear direction of all the boards and our intentions as well, as we came off of ARPA and then the influx of free cash that we've had in our own catch up over the last few years, that we start backing off on using free cash, with the goal being that we balance the budget within what are the revenues projected for that year. So we are taking, even though we have right now in hand $957,000, $957,629 in free cash available after special town meeting. Our starting point is to use 750,000 of that. And to enable a budget of $21.637 million. That is the decrease of $369,000 we're going to feel. The requests, if you see the far right column, the white one that says 917,183, that's the difference between the projected 24 and 25. There'll be some other tweaks, some things we haven't addressed yet. So let's just round that to $1 million. So that would be, that would allow for a $1 million or so, maybe a little less than $1 million increase in the budget for 25. Our starting point, just our starting point requests are about $1.5 million so far. That's just using the raw requests that have come in from the budgets, which are always, we find good solid ones, but that's where we're starting from. And so far, Carolyn and I haven't met with departments, but that's what we're planning to do over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So there's the revenues.
Thank you.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Amy, unless you guys had anything specific to address tonight, I wanted to maybe touch on OPEB and free cash for the upcoming budget and kind of what our thoughts were on that, because I know those are two of the hot topics for us.
Okay. Does anyone on the select board have any questions at this time?
Well, I know we went low on OPEB during COVID and we need to get back up into our payments. Do you have a goal for what you're aiming for to put in for next year?
Linda, what did we bump the OPEB to? Do you have that number in front of you for last year?
What do we vote?
Okay.
OPEB.
Just double checking, but I think they know.
Sorry. That makes sense.
We have 200,000 in the budget for this year. Last year was 180.
Okay.
And, no, I'm sorry, for 24, we had 180,000. I put 200,000 in for 25. The 200 is what I made a request for within the budget.
Okay. I know last year, one of the issues for the finance committee, and I know for Linda and Carolyn also, was trying to balance the reducing our reliance on the free cash with also bumping up the OPEB and kind of staying within our means. Do we have a lot of, I guess, earmarks or requests for our current free cash that we have left, or where do we stand? I know it didn't seem like it recently, but have any come in, any big expenditures that we need to spend that free cash?
I mean, do you want to join me or, we will, yeah,
That might be easier.
yeah, I think so. As you know, David, we're looking at our second year with the ambulance and we, okay, hold on.
There's so much more articulate. I know you do.
So that is going to be that, and that was an article last year, so that is going to be impacted by free cash. We have a couple other articles. That's been, one of the articles has been ongoing with the membranes, the infrastructure. That's Scott, what
Is that out of water though?
Is that out of water? Is that out of water?
The membrane, that's out of water.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I don't have my cheat sheets in front of me.
Yeah. We're at the very early stages, David. We're actually meeting several about the ambulance funding tomorrow. The OPEB report with our outstanding liability and recommendations just arrived today, so I haven't really had a chance to go through that. And,
So I guess I should talk about, maybe what our priorities are right now. When I say ours, it's something we've been talking about for a while, that classification compensation plan. That is, we really aren't looking at any major capital besides possibly, I'm anticipating the, and this isn't free cash, but I'm anticipating the fire truck, being back on in the warrant, my apologies. But the real focus is going to be able to fund the impact of the compensation plan. We don't know what that is. It has been a long process. I certainly don't want to go before the select board, you or the town without really precise numbers. We have gotten our first read at the grades of the positions, and that is a draft, and we just got that this week. So that will be the select board reviewing that at the next select board meeting. And it's not going to be a precise number. There's a lot more left to the compensation study. But that is really what has been on the forefront right now. And that's really what our focus is right now, is seeing what the impact of that's going to be.
Do we anticipate having numbers to see what that impact is before annual town meeting, or is this something that would be right after 26?
So it has been a frustrating process. Deadlines that we've asked for have been much later than what we've gotten. Troy did put some pressure that we really needed these numbers. I'm hesitant to say that we will have clear numbers in the next month or two. I will not present the classification study if you don't have precise numbers. That would not be wise for any of us to do that. So I will have a better idea in the next few weeks, how close we are to getting more specific numbers. But the reality is that I'll say to the select board and the finance committee, there's a possibility until we really know what those numbers are going to be. It could be a phased approach, or it could be a delayed approach to funding that. I am really passionate about trying to get this compensation followed and being able to be funded, but we have to be realistic as well with the year that we have right now on how we're going to fund that. But my hope is that I would have the support from both of these committees, that this is a commitment in the next year or two to be able to do this. But I just don't know yet what the financial impact is going to be.
Well, we did in our earlier joint meeting decide that the compensation was critical.
It is critical. We are
And I
having,
think the idea of a phased instead of a delayed is better if we can't do it all at once. We've got to do something.
I agree. I appreciate that.
And I know we have an ambulance meeting tomorrow. Kind of one of the other hanging questions is, I know we're going to have to subsidize the ambulance revolving fund, going forward until it can start generating revenue to, I guess, and making some money on its own. Do we have an idea of how many years we will need to subsidize that before it's self-sustaining? Because that's going to play a big part in, how much we need to contribute as far as how much we can bump up OPEB, how much we can, decrease our free cash utilization.
So I can't tell you exactly when the year that we're totally self-sufficient. I suspect it's going to be a few years.
This, can I just say something?
Mhm.
So this year is just the basic life support ambulance, and you have to do that for a year before you can apply to go to ALS, which is advanced life support. So we've got a year to get into the groove of being able to go out there and subsidize Action Ambulance, which is ALS run, and have the paramedics on that. So we at least have a year, if not more, to get things up and running, and the applications and the certificates that you need that goes along with the advanced life support too. So I think that's going to be a couple years at least down the road that we're going to see some type of thing coming back. But
moving in the right direction.
But I think to David and the finance committee's point, one of the things we should be working with our chief on and action for that matter, and we can bring this up at our meeting tomorrow, is to start laying down some of these numbers instead of it just being words. I mean, really taking a good look, you know, and we had to take the first step just to get the BLS up and running like Joyce is talking about, but I think being realistic about our call volume and what that might translate to, you know, and I would say 3 to 5 years is really what we're looking at, in my opinion. So.
And Paul and Amy chime in here, but kind of my thoughts are, as you know, obviously reducing free cash is important to us, raising OPEB is important to us, but I don't want to see us kind of seesawing and all over the place with OPEB. I want to see a continued positive trend in our contributions. So I don't want to say, okay, we're gonna dump in 225 this year, and then next year the ambulance bill comes and we say, well, we can't afford that, so we're going to drop it back down to 200. I don't think that's going to look reflect positively on the town if we're doing that. So, you know, in my mind, it would be better to spend some free cash on well, I wouldn't call it a one-time expense, but a short-term expense like subsidizing the ambulance. And that way we could continue to bump up OPEB as a regular budget item, if that makes sense.
But I think you'll learn more at the ambulance committee meeting tomorrow, that there's other things that we talked about at our last meeting. And so you'll hear more tomorrow. And I think that will enlighten the picture a little bit more.
But you're right, David, that all of you, that the plan for OPEB, one thing that we're evaluated on is whether we have a plan and we stick to the plan. And so when we lowered it down a few years ago, we were up in the mid 200s, I think, before COVID, and then it came down to 0, then went 90, and then we started at 150, 160, we up and we're at 180. And so as we were being audited this year, he said, I see that you went up by 10,000. Is that what you expect next year? And I said, that's a good expectation. That they would rather see us go up by 10,000 a year or something like that than to go up and then down. And like to have it be something that's completely on the table each year, that we say, okay, now what do we have left over this year? Let's try that. So they want to see a plan. And even if it's a less ambitious plan, that it be a plan that we stick to.
It's still amazing that there are other towns and cities that haven't done nothing about OPEB. So we're one up on a lot of people. So
that's their plan.
That's their plan. Exactly.
Aren't we just a handful, pardon me, aren't we just a handful of towns that are actually doing anything?
There's more now than there were. That was
a few years ago.
But I can't imagine too many picked up since COVID. I think that there was a bit of a setback at that point for all of them, even those that hadn't started, but more are getting on board.
So where are we in our percentage of what we need to be at?
Oh, you know what? Let me go through this, and I'm going to send out to you the audit, the actuarial report that I received from Parker Elmore this morning. I didn't even have a chance to open it up. So I will be looking through that, and it's usually a very long report, and he does us the favor of a nice 2 or 3 page recap in the beginning with some nice charts, and Molly will help out with the interpretation, and we'll get something out and explain what it means. But I know last we were at 16% of the liability, and it had been going up, then it went down because the liability goal got away from us. Not because our contributions went down. And they are the Bartholomew holds our funds, and they are very strongly encouraging that we put it in higher risk investing. We have been moderate, not conservative, but we've been moderate, and it makes a big difference if we would just move it up a bit. Something I've been hesitant to do in the past, but I'd be happy to gather a group around. Maybe you want to talk more about what Molly, what we talked about today is not think when we don't have the cash to put into these funds, how can we make those funds
Make money
work
for-
better and generate more money internally? But ideally do both ultimately, but if we're not, especially if we don't have the money to put in, how can we make it work better? And I'd like to see if we're gonna do that, a team and not something that I just make the decision on, because it's really it's the town's money. We have to sort of be in agreement.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about today, meeting with Amy Fiden was present, is, we're in a different world now, in terms of we're finally out of that decade where it was almost impossible to make any money on your cash or your short-term investments, and pretty much the town, separate and apart from OPEB, which is invested in what I'll call, the market, has more of an equity component. Stabilization and accounts like that. I mean, they're unbelievably conservative, right? By the standards of our own investment policy. But you can pretty much get close to 5% by doing not an awful lot. Right, Amy? Amy, that's what Amy's bank's offering right now.
Right.
So, one of the things I was hoping the finance committee might think about is, what I refer to as balance sheet management. I mean, to the extent we can more predictably make money on those savings accounts, could we do what we did historically? Not every year, but some years, and basically sweep the earnings off of that into another balance sheet account. And every time I look at Amy, I think capital stabilization would be one opportunity, certainly. But theoretically, you could even do it with OPEB, because you're just moving it from one investment account to another investment account. So I was just kind of hoping we could keep an open mind on that, because if push comes to shove, that might be a place to go to help us further the cause.
Take a moment at some point and go back to that revenue sheet, and you'll see that we projected investment earnings for 24 to be 25,000. And as of the end of December, we already had $104,000. So 4 times our annual projection we had by halfway through the year. And these earnings do not include stabilization capital, OPEB, or any of our trusts or the other investments. This is just our interest rates from investments. So yeah, so this is time to pay attention. When I started as treasurer, these things didn't matter. Didn't have to repeat. But now it is starting to matter, and I would like to get some support on
Sounds good.
Okay.
Any other big expenditures anywhere that we're looking at besides maybe the fire truck again? Anything else?
Well, we're trying to keep all our capitals in a fall town meeting, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't started working on what will be on the capital for the fall town meeting.
Did we have anything coming from the school committee at all about anything?
They do have their long-term plan has been submitted, but so we will be taking a look at that too.
Okay.
So that we can come up with the right amount of capital for the fall. That can be funded out of, there's various sources for funding it. The school, they put their plan out, but some things they do plan on funding from school choice and other sources that they have. So I have to go through and sort of sort that through. We still pay $500,000 a year on our borrowing within the levy. So we have that much each year that we can, about that much that we can add in borrowing within the levy on the capital budget in the fall, is within our operational budget. And then the larger items such as the fire truck that will be going on, just like the school renovations that just passed, will be debt exclusion items. And so they don't directly impact the budget. The budget does go up to cover those payments, but as you see from the revenues, our debt exclusion income in the tax section goes up correspondingly the same income.
And we're probably gonna get the capital plan together within, not not to put anything for the annual town meeting, but something to be working on for the fall, so we'll have somewhat of a.
Anything?
Amy,
Okay.
Paul?
I
Sounds
think,
good.
the, for tonight, I think the timeline is very important and what, Carolyn will present to us. As far as the more details on the revenues or on the expenses, I think that will just take some time to go through.
So Amy, can you access, did I put that in a public comment? Can you access board docs? I put the timeline in there.
Yeah.
I did. Mhm.
Good, okay. If you see any problems with any of those dates, please let me know.
Okay.
It's all have his hand up.
No, I'm good. I mean, I think the previous statements about keeping forward OPEB is important to us. And it's something we committed to, bringing it back up, but we also have some challenges coming. So I think we really have to look at, I think people have to be realistic about what we have, our responsibilities in the town overall, in terms of what we have to take care of. And our people is part of that, the OPEB is part of that, and I think some of the capital equipment, we need to be very realistic about what our needs are.
Okay. David, do you want to close your meeting?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask before we leave, does the select board have anything, as we start our weekly meetings, looks like it's gonna be Thursdays going forward. Is there anything that you want us to really hit on when it comes to budgets and town meeting season? Other than what Molly mentioned about the, looking at balance sheets and investments.
Anything?
So far.
So good.
Thank
All
you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Well, then if I could get a motion.
Need a motion?
Yep.
A motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion by Paul, second by Amy, and I'll roll call Amy,
yes.
Paul,
Yes.
and David. Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
One last thing.
Good night.
Linda said she wanted to get a team together to help her figure out where to put some money to get better returns. So how do we deal with that?
Yes, yes, when I always start talking about having our first finance committee. And then. Yeah, although, we'll talk first, I don't know, we haven't, that just started this afternoon, next session, I think it's something that has to happen, so we'll, Carolyn and I talk first to figure out how we go back.
And not everybody's seen.
Yeah, I don't want to get lost.
Yeah. And Linda, not everybody on the board has seen the investment policy, right? So there are policies that guide some of those, and it might be helpful to circulate that so people can read that. Okay, right?
For that report.
They
we're
also
gonna send it.
understand inform manuals.
That's the old.
That's what she's name. No, we'll pull that.
Thank you.
All right, 2.3, a joint meeting with the library trustees to discuss the joint appointment of Jack Zykowski as a library trustee. There were 2 open positions, and we did receive a letter of interest from Jack Zykowski. I know that Joanne is on, as well as Jessica. All 4 of you are here. Excellent.
I would like to call the joint select board and library trustee meeting to order. And if each of you would signify. Joanne? Susan?
You need to hear your voice.
Unmute, please.
Yeah.
Here. Susan, you're still muted.
Here.
Jess?
Here.
Here. I sent you all an email And I hope you read it, and I really don't have a whole lot to add to that. As Amy noted, we do have 2 open positions, and we have a candidate to fill one of them. And as far as we are concerned, it is an excellent candidate. And I would like to make a motion that the joint meeting appoint Jack Sikowski to fill one of the vacant positions. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, and
Is
then,
there any discussion?
so I just wanted to, just a point of clarification for anyone who is here also listening, that this is an interim until the May 10 elections.
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions for Jack?
I think he's very qualified. I'll make a motion to accept Jack Sikowski as the interim library trustee.
I'll second that.
All right, excellent.
If there is no further discussion, can the trustees please unmute themselves and vote in favor of the motion? You have to do a roll call. Lynn.
Joanne, in favor?
You have to do a roll call. You have to do a roll call. Joanne,
Joanne in favor?
Susan,
Susan in favor?
Jess,
Jessica in favor?
Lynn in favor. Excellent. Molly? They do their own. All right. Keegan?
Yes.
Chandler?
Yes.
Parsons?
Yes.
Nevin Smith? And Isaac.
Yes.
That's why they pay me the big bucks. Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? Then.
Congratulations.
My goal was 3 minutes or less. I'm not sure how close I came, but thank you very much.
Yeah, just close your meeting.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yep.
A motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second by Joanne.
All in favor, and I need you all to say yes.
Joanne, yes. Jessica,
Susan,
yes.
yes.
Lynn, yes.
All right.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Very much.
you.
Get to
Have a
work,
good
Jack.
night.
I almost should have put this one first. All right, moving on to 3.1 consent agenda. Warrants AP 2426 INS, AP 2426, AP 2427V, AP 2427, AP 2427S, AP 2427S-2, and the minutes from December 20th, 2023.
So moved.
All right, motion by Joyce.
Second.
Second by Randy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent. All right, moving to 4.1. So we're going to go to public comments. It's a period of about 15 minutes, which is a public comment period is, where the town can bring their concerns before the select board. Please try to limit your comments to about 3 minutes so that all members of the public may have an opportunity to speak. Is there anyone here for public comments? I don't see anyone online. All right, awesome. Moving on to old business. 5.1.
Can I ask a favor?
Yeah.
Could we go to DPW?
Oh, yeah, let's
take it away.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. 6.1. All right,
Chief is on here too.
new employee appointments, that one, 6.2 is getting postponed. Hi. Long time no talk.
We talked a while back about getting a co-op student from a vocational school to help us in the DPW and try to prepare for the future. So myself and Joy have been working with Smith Vocational to find someone, and here he is. I think that David Labarge is going to be working, or hopefully working with us with your approval as a co-op student. On his shop weeks, he'll be working here and on a part-time basis, like on snow storms and things like that. If there's no school, he can, work for us or even on the weekends. what's he currently qualified to do for us, Scott, as far as equipment operation, et cetera?
On school weeks, it is different from non-school weeks. There is some, school weeks, it's the extension of the classroom. There's no restriction.
Okay,
Non-school weeks, there is some restriction.
okay, so the reason I'm asking the question is I know you're having issues with snow removal personnel. So for instance, if he was working last night,
Yeah.
what could he do for us?
He could, snow blow and shovel and, you know, that kind of thing with, like, working hand in hand with Gary, doing the buildings and that. Okay. He cannot drive a vehicle, period, so he's not 18 years old, so, driving is out of the question, but there is no restriction as far as lawnmower and, things of that nature, snow blower. He can operate them. I've been working with Troy very closely on this, and Troy has all the documentation of what he can and cannot do.
Okay.
But on, shop weeks, the restriction is gone away because it's an extension of the classroom, minus the driving. He can't drive still, but, there is more he can do, you know, because there's no restriction.
Gotcha.
In the learning aspect.
What group are you in at the school?
I am a junior in forestry.
Forestry.
And do you like snow?
Yeah, I don't.
He got it highly recommended from his teachers. So,
You got a John Deere hat on, you farming
Yeah, grew up on a family farm in down Northampton.
in Northampton.
Old barges.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, we'd only judge you if it was an IH or Massey Ferguson, so it's fine that it's runs like a deer.
So
I move we accept.
second,
Second.
All right, motioned by Joyce, seconded by Molly. All those in favor?
I.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
welcome, yeah.
David, make sure you teach these guys something, all right?
I know if you work on a farm, you're a good worker.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
then we have Nick too.
and then we also have Nick. This is like one of the few times you'll be in front of the camera.
Yeah, hello, everyone. This is Nick Keepers. He is gonna be our production assistant with your favorability. He is a graduate of Keene State College in Keene, New Hampshire. Believe you graduated in 2022? Yes. And he has a lot of experience in sports, and on our interview, because I was out with COVID and it was virtual, his webcam was a Blackmagic 4K cinema camera, right? Yes. So he's able to put external cameras onto as a webcam. So that's pretty good in my book. As you know, we're a very, very technical department, and technical is good. And he has experience with some of the softwares that we use already. So, I mean, there is going to be a learning curve, but that's with anyone who's going to be coming aboard to this position.
Will he have a good teacher, Alex?
I hope so. I heard that this Alex guy is pretty okay. So.
Where did you work before, Nick?
I worked for one of my friends. He's actually a glassblower. So he was in a collective of other glassblowers, and I was doing miscellaneous media for them, just stuff for their websites, product shoots. I did a couple of live streams for them, encouraging them to like blow glass in front of a live stream for an audience, and even assembling some sort of glass blowing lessons so that they could sell to people. But that's about what I've been doing for the past 2 or so years since graduating.
Great. YouTubing is good. We do that here.
So motion to approve the hiring of Nick Capers as the Hadley Media Productions.
Second.
Motion by Molly, seconded by Joyce. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent, welcome.
Thank you.
And as always, thank you for Troy for helping us out with the hiring process.
Yes.
Thank you, Select Board.
Thank you.
All right.
One more on there.
6.2 is being postponed, per,
Point one, what about the?
huh?
6.1.
The part-time building inspector.
Okay, local.
Oh, right.
Oh, sorry, that's just in the title. It's not in the other content.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Vernon Harrington, part-time local building inspector. Is
Do you have anybody to represent?
Tommy's on?
We're talking about that.
Or Mr. Question, you're asking, we're just gonna cover his
appointment.
appointment, the other discussion.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Vern has been actually certified building commissioner for more than twice what I have, 25 years. And he's retired, sold his business, and is interested in working here.
Motion to approve the appointment of Vernon Harrington as the part-time local building inspector.
Second.
All right, motion by Molly, seconded by Joyce. You were his protege, right?
No, no.
No.
He used to own Thayer Street Associates.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, 6.2 is being postponed. Is there anything else that we need to do for people that are waiting on anything in this room?
We haven't done 5.1.
5.1. No, yeah, I was just meant, if there's anything in new business that.
Mike
I
is
know.
here at 6.3.
He's on a couple of things.
Yeah, he's on a couple of things.
Okay.
All right, let's go back to 5.1. Troy is online. Yep, there, I see him. He's going to present the Collins Center's proposal for the Strong Town Administrator Act scope of work and pricing. This is at this point purely informational, nothing that we're voting on.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. As promised, the Collins Center delivered their scope of work for your review. It's just simply a matter of the time for you guys to review it and then bring back to meeting for consideration and vote. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Carolyn.
I don't, this really is just, you're not in any hurry, but it's, just follow through.
Talk about it here.
You can talk about, I mean, you're just getting it now, so if you have any questions, is there anything you haven't had a long time to look at it, so,
Only question I had right now is, Ben and Carrie, either you or Troy. I know the Collins Center's done this type of work in multiple municipalities, so they're experienced at it, but would it be a good idea to check, directly with a few towns and see how that went, or even we're going to the MMA conference too, so if we have any sense of who those towns are, maybe we could make some of those inquiries in person over the Friday, Saturday.
I also wonder if in looking at the scope of work, given what's happened with our salary survey, we should put some kind of a timing on here specifically. This work is to be done within.
Yep, we will, and just to be clear, this is two different entities within the Collins Center, but that's a great. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, 5.2, 2024 license renewals. There's 3 additional today. Class 2 auto dealer's license for River Drive Auto Body. And then that's a separate one, right? So we'll have to do that one first before the 2 amusement ones.
You could do them all.
Could we just, okay. Automatic amusements license for Kittleton Incorporated and automatic amusement license for Lucky Duck Vending.
Who are the last 2 or where are they?
The last one I know was in the mall, can confirm.
Kilton Inc. is in the mall.
They both are.
Lucky Duck is actually in Tiara.
Okay. Okay.
Lucky Duck wanted, yes.
Yeah.
Lucky Duck wanted to go into the mall, but I think their contract negotiations broke down.
Okay.
And so this was his other location that he asked y'all for, and this is at Tiara.
Okay.
Excellent.
Second.
All right, motioned by Joyce, seconded by Molly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Okay. So 5.3, Green Community Funding Process Approval Discussion. There is a flow chart attached. If you want to just discuss a little bit.
A little backstory to that.
Yeah.
So as you know, we are now considered a green community, and with that comes funding, but I do want to recognize how much work the Climate Change Committee put into this to make this happen. So they are definitely eager to move forward quickly. There is funding available based on that. We do work with the company from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, who helps with the administrative tasks. So there was a meeting in August, I think, where we talked about the process and what's the flow going to be, because ultimately you guys have to authorize that funding. But how would that get presented? And so Annie she's just a great note taker. She put that page together that I put in your documents as far as a process. So I just wanted you guys to discuss that. Do you have any questions? Jack and Kathy are here. They keep amongst themselves, but they certainly can ask questions. But we've been working together with Annie, with Gary. But we really want to have you guys recognize that. And if there's any questions you have or any process you want to recommend, we're here.
So can we, obviously the money we got from Green Communities is not enough to cover all of these things.
Well, we haven't gotten anything yet.
But
We
there's
still
a
have to submit for it.
You have to submit, but the amount we can submit for would not possibly cover all of these items.
Well, and that's part of it. I think that's one of the things you guys might want to talk about is there, because it's two different right now, we're looking at two different flows, the schools and the town-owned buildings. So, and I don't want to put more on their plate. I certainly don't want to make that as a recommendation. But they are very passionate about it and have been very involved with it. It may make sense for them to do the exploring. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but have you guys do the kind of the due diligence when there's a project that they have seen as important. And to be able to bring it to the select board to see what your thoughts are. I mean, there's a lot of things to look at. So Jack and Kathy proposing the theme. So I just try to get this communication on how you would like that done.
So is there any kind of a chart currently of what specific projects people are suggesting we do at this point?
You want to talk to that, Kathy, or should
I'm happy to. So.
Oh yeah, do you want to just come right on up?
So.
And are you here from the Climate Change Committee or from the library?
Yeah, I was the Climate Change Committee, 133 Mount Warner Road. So the way this works is Gary for the town or Chris for the schools will work together with us to suggest a project that could possibly be funded through the Green Communities Grant. Chris Mason, Mimi Kaplan. So Chris is from Mass DOER. Mimi Kaplan is from TVPC. They would also see if this fits. Does it fit the criteria of what's suggested? And then that's the part that would then go to probably you, Carol, I would think as Chief Procurement Officer.
Once you guys pick something and you guys need to authorize that, yes, both Jennifer and I are working on that.
And so that's really the big part of the loop.
So the question I think Randy asked is, what are we specifically looking at? I know Gary has looked at,
So Gary is doing some work with the town hall to possibly see if some of the repairs to the air conditioning system would be covered. That's one thing he's looked at. And Chris has been looking at a few other ideas for the schools.
But we have the energy reduction plan that was compiled when we became a green community that they're very specific projects and how much energy would save, estimated cost. So I'm in favor of, you know, kind of sticking with that. This air conditioning project, it remains to be seen whether that's considered. Green communities grants will only cover something that makes a building more energy efficient. And Mimi said something, or Chris did, that it may be fixing the air conditioners, just regular maintenance, and a green community grant won't even cover that. So anyway, there's paperwork. You have to get the estimate and do all this paperwork and submit it to green communities, and then they will approve it or not. And I don't know when did we bring it to you?
After we have some serious numbers.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the reason I bring this up is I can envision multiple projects for the school and for the town. And ultimately, in this flow chart, I see the select board has to approve. So I think it makes sense, as far as I'm concerned, that we have a list. And Kathy, to your point, give us all the numbers, what it's gonna cost. Obviously, if it's not allowed, you're not gonna have it on your list. And what you guys think the benefit is to the town, and then we can discuss that and then make a decision based on that information.
With this initial grant, we're allowed to go up to about $135,000.
Right.
Which in the scheme of things isn't all that much. In the future, now that we are a green community, we can apply for other grants. So
Right.
that's
The way
a
it
real
works.
benefit
Yeah.
for the town. So, you know, you can look at this and decide if this is reasonable. Or you can make any adjustments that you feel are worthwhile. in the process.
Was there some thought about changing the town hall to heat pumps instead of just fixing the air conditioners? Because that would be energy efficient.
Yeah, and also that is so far beyond the scope of what this $130,000 would cover.
If you guys should all have copies of that Hadley energy reduction plan that was compiled doing, you know, becoming a green community. And that is further down the line, but I guess the buildings that are wasting the most electricity are the schools. I think the elementary school. So that's why this air conditioning project, like, if we could just go ahead and get the estimates, and he's gone, but we've been, I guess Gary's still waiting,
That's what we have heard. Yeah.
so we don't. So Chris, I guess, Chris offered to get some estimates on some of the elementary school work. So he's working on that.
We're just trying to find ways to make this more streamlined. Because this is very complicated, and I don't know if the climate change committee necessarily have to be part of it. Maybe this is simplified. I don't know if this is just too much.
I want to be.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's a good idea for you
Yeah.
guys to be part of it because you're passionate about this kind of stuff.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're the ones to keep bringing it up, like, you know, what's going on, how about this, how about, you know.
But I also think because of your experience with it, you can make we don't have to listen, but you should say, I think project C is really the best out of this list. And this is why. Because we're sitting up here and we need input.
Right, and I mean, I rely on that energy reduction plan because the numbers are right, I mean, it's actually, to me, fascinating. I mean, there's stuff going on at that elementary school that's so wasteful, and things they could put in place that I had never even heard of, you know, like recapturing heat and I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Making things more automated, just upgrading all kinds of stuff, and it saves us a lot of money.
Throughout this, though, it's a complicated process because we have to get Mass DOER to approve it. After Gary finds the numbers or Chris finds the numbers. It's just a lot, and I don't know if there's a way to streamline the process at all.
I think we need to, what I'd like to see is us to nail down who's gonna get the estimates on what.
Well, I think that's the question. We don't want to send people out to get estimates on 3 or 4 things. We need to narrow it down.
Right, so Chris, in an email, I don't know who, I guess Jack sort of gave everybody a nudge, like, hey, what's going on? And Chris sort of vaguely said, well, I can get some estimates on stuff for the school. So do we have permission to kind of,
Focus them?
yes,
I would think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's probably worth having another conversation about the process, because I want to make sure that you guys are able to present without any roadblocks from other input to be able to present to this board. And you definitely want Chris's support, you want Gary's support. But I think ultimately, I want you guys to have the comfort, and if you guys approve of this, even if you're getting some resistance, to be able to come to the select board, because they may be able to help with that. That's.
Well, the other thing that's not clear in my mind, select board also has their capital plan, I guess, which includes the possibility of putting in geothermal in Hopkins, and I don't know. I think they've seen the energy reduction plan, but we haven't seen the school kind of energy.
Yeah, so I don't, there could be some more collaboration, certainly.
Right, I feel like one more meeting, like the one we had in August with some people from the school committee and some people from climate change, and then you and Jane, or, select board.
Joyce represents the school.
Yeah, whoever, compare the two plans, so there's, I'm just wondering if there's any overlap.
Well, I think we just, again, need to get more focus specifically and then move from that position instead of, right now, it's like, well, we could do this, we might do that, this could work.
Well, because Chris even mentioned, like, he could get estimates on stuff for some stuff for the electric, or for the elementary school that could probably come out of the school committee.
Yeah, so,
like, well, what things are.
So what might make sense is maybe, get together with Annie is the most collaborative person, and just everybody, that was just like, she just took both notes while we were meeting that day. Maybe we can share some of that challenges with that.
Yeah, and one part of the challenge, because we're about 6 months in for getting declared a green community. And one part of the challenge is, it's been taking months just to get quotes.
Yeah.
I know Gary has expressed his frustration to us that it just takes forever to actually get real numbers from people who can legitimately do some of this work. And again, this is a wonderful sort of grant of money to Hadley if we can make it work, and hopefully we can apply for some more grants in the future now that we are green, and to take this further. So we are open to the idea of meeting with Annie again. We're open to meeting, open to meeting with Gary again, or maybe Chris from the school, Gary, and Chris Mason, who's from Mass DOER.
Is there a time limit on this $130,000?
There are some towns that have never taken their initial gift of money, which
Okay, so
stunned me.
we're not on a time constraint,
Amazing projects.
right? We're not on a time
We're
constraint?
not on the clock.
Okay, so
At the same time, I mean, we're all seeing the headlines about the state sort of hurting for money and how things will change,
Right.
things might change. So we're not on a clock. At the same time, we have this money
Right.
and we should probably use it.
well, I'm not suggesting we sit back, Jack. I was concerned that we might have a time constraint that we had to deal with.
No, I don't think so, but once we use this, then there are other green community grants we can apply for to get all these projects.
Perfect.
So,
Yeah.
So I think it just makes sense to, both Jane and I think are on the same page here. Get some 1, 2, 3, whatever projects that people think need to get done. You guys hash it out at the climate change committee and then bring it to us and say, we think this is a good way to spend this money. And then we can hopefully get the ball rolling.
Well, and certainly I think it's worth pulling together a meeting, as you say, with Annie, with Gary, possibly Chris from the school and Chris Mason, just bring everybody together. 6 months in and we really don't have a plan. So what's our next step?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Perfect. And you work on focusing them.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
And the town thanks you for the money.
Okay. 6.3.
Two.
Nope, 6.2 is being postponed.
Oh.
Until we have an all-inclusive list. Fire department and emergency management service update. Works for me. 6.4 mosquito opt-out committee, they request to be disbanded because opting out is no longer an option.
Motion to disband the mosquito opt-out committee at their discretion.
Second.
All right, motion by Molly, seconded by Joyce. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent.
And just thank you for the work that they did.
Yes.
Spanned quite a bit of time and I know they put a lot into it. So thank you.
All right, 6.5, open meeting law complaint filed by Sue Del Molino on November 14th, 2023. So the Office of Attorney General received an open meeting law complaint. This agenda item will serve as the town's response to that complaint. The description of alleged violation was that the select board agenda of November 14th, 2023 lacks specificity and detail as to what is to be discussed. Of note is that the agenda is stamped as posted at 3:25 p.m. By Jessica Spanknable, but it did not appear on the town's website until after 5:45 p.m. on November 13th. The website is the official place for the posting. I know that Jessica did respond to that, which it is not an issue as it was posted within the 48 hours prior to the meeting. And I was gonna say that we should probably authorize Carolyn and Molly to respond. Is that how that was supposed to go?
You need to discuss the response and.
So my understanding from Jessica's reply that she did to Sue, and again, that my understanding is that that email from Jessica wasn't considered the formal response, right? Because it had to do with the.
No,
books,
no,
that's
that
why it's
was-
here, right? Yeah. Right, because that, yeah, so there are two issues. One is the timing. And my understanding is that as long as we meet the posting requirement, we're okay. I mean, even if she got it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
So the timestamp on it, which is what Jessica referred to, the timestamp is the official time when it gets posted on there. And Jessica does explain that she's not certain why it wasn't viewable by Mrs. Del Molino, but it was posted on the town website and it did meet all legal requirements. So I think 3:25 p.m. So we posted well within the time frame. And then Mrs. Del Molino mentions that it's like, I think she said it was, she couldn't see it till 5:45 p.m. But again, still y'all don't meet till 6 p.m. So still within the 48-hour window. So there's not actually a concern there at all. And everything was posted correctly and on time. And the website, the town meeting website calendar is the official posting for the select board meetings, actually for all meetings. Board Docs is a tool that the select board y'all use. It's not necessary, while the public has access, it's not necessarily a tool for the public to use. It's a tool that y'all use to see all your documents as you prepare for meetings.
So the public does not have access to all the documents and things that we see on board docs?
No, not necessarily.
Okay,
All right, and then which meeting was it? November,
17th,
14th.
13th,
Yeah.
November 14th?
2023.
15th.
Okay, I've got 15th on here. so-
Oh,
The complaint was launched before the meeting.
sorry, I'm looking at the date on the OML complaint, which is the 14th.
Okay. And so the the assertion is that the items on here lacked specificity. I'm just looking at the agenda now to see if there's anything on here. Call to order, tax classification hearing, public comment, consent agenda, police department appointments, and the names are there. My personal opinion is that these agenda items are fine. The town administrator report, I know that's something that we've talked about. Carolyn, right? I mean, I think you've been, yes, yeah. So
Reports such as the county administrator report that's expected, not presented. It's just an update.
yeah,
And there's nothing specific about her complaint about the specificity, except that.
But I don't have to say that one.
So
Yeah, I'm not sure that there
So I
is
don't-
an
yeah,
issue.
I don't
with that.
understand what her concern is.
yeah, I mean, so I'd be inclined to respond that, we appreciate the feedback, but it doesn't
Concern.
appear that there's a violation of open meeting law here, but
And these are, to be honest, what is posted now, to me is from when I first got on the board, more specific. So not
Yes,
sure
I
what
think it's come a long way.
what the issue is.
but I also think, I mean, obviously Sue's got a different opinion, so there must be a basis for that, so
Everyone has one.
I think from a formal response standpoint, we should acknowledge the points that have been made, but indicate that, we believe the posting
Legal.
The posting
it
is,
was a legal posting. There was
Yeah.
no intent. I mean, it does appear, I mean, I have to rely
yeah,
on Jessica's response that,
yeah,
it was stamped and it was posted then.
yeah.
I know I've had problems sometimes with the computers and the caching. Sometimes the browser doesn't pick up things fully. So again, that's speculation, but whatever
Yeah.
happened at that point.
Yeah.
And then the content of the agenda on November 15th that we're working on the continuous improvement theme. I think we're trying very hard to make our agendas as explicit as possible because
Yeah.
of this, but I don't believe that there's anything on that one.
Well, I think that I think Jessica is, or Jessica's fine. Jennifer is currently going above and beyond. I think there's a difference between wants and needs, right? So we, at that time, posted exactly what was needed to be posted per open meeting law. Right now, what we're working on are people's wants. So the titles that you're putting in with the specific people's names now, that because we're doing that now doesn't mean that back then was wrong. It's just we're adding a new element. Well, it's not that we're improving because they were never wrong in the first place. It's that we're adding for additional information for people that might not be able to.
Trying to be a little bit more explicit.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we were being secretive or breaking rules before. It's just we're adding additional.
And I think that's why I'd like to emphasize
Yeah.
that in our response.
Mhm.
To say again, we've listened, we've, heard concerns and we are
as we move forward, trying to, be better in terms of, I think the goal is that anybody picking up an agenda for any publicly posted meeting should reasonably be able to figure out what's going to be discussed. Right? I mean, that's kind of the basis of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there a character limit on the titles?
There's not. So before, in board docs, what I traditionally done in the past with Carolyn and actually before Carolyn and David, we put a title and then under public content, we would put all of the people that were being appointed or all of these things. And we just had a simpler title and that was what got posted. So the change that has been made here, and it's the only change is where y'all normally have in public content, the title. I just started making that the name of the agenda item is what I've done for this meeting. Carolyn and I looked at a couple of examples because Carolyn has been wanting to sort of change how we're doing the postings because of sort of the level of work in board docs. But so literally all this is that public content line that's always there for you is now the name of the agenda item. So mosquito opt-out committee request to be disbanded. Before I would have put mosquito opt-out committee disbanded or mosquito opt-out committee, but now I just put the whole thing in there. So there's less in public content, as in nothing in public content, and it's just the title now. But and that just sort of brings us sort of more into line with what a lot of other communities do, instead of having an extra public content area filled out. So if that's acceptable to y'all, that would be sort of
It's fine with me.
Well, yeah, I think to everybody's point is if you look at the November 15th warrant agenda versus tonight's agenda, you'll see, as Jessica just explained, much more detail. So I think we're improving. And I mean, short of spelling everything out in the heading for the agenda item, I think we're doing a very good job here, or Jessica's doing a very good job here.
But also we weren't doing anything wrong before.
Correct, I
To
agree.
be
I agree with that.
in that, yeah.
And
I think
it's
that's a
impossible, you
response.
can't, if you say discuss, you can't say, well, some people think it should be green and some people think it should be purple. We're gonna discuss it. We don't put the
Right,
parameters of
right.
discussion.
Okay.
Well, personally, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it before, but that's my own opinion. And I'll go forward with this, and so whatever.
All right, so do we send her a letter or what?
Yeah, so I was gonna say that we should authorize Carolyn and Molly to respond to it.
That's fine.
Collectively.
You respond to the person making the complaint as well as to follow up with return judges.
Okay.
Same explanation.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. All right, which kind of brings us to 6.6, which is the communication policy discussion and policy follow-up procedures. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so, you had asked to put that on the agenda, and so we did, and I reached out to Molly to ask for some specifics, and so I just kind of summarized those in that explanation. So, I think I want you guys to look at those points, is that, how you would like to proceed with that? I think it's a good idea. I think, even with open meeting law, it's being a process. If it goes to one of you guys, it means not only get to the clerk, but to get to you as well. So I think there's a lot of items that need to be addressed. I have to say, I think it's a great stepping stone in addressing some of those issues to the full policy and procedure. Really, that there are a lot of great templates out there on a lot of websites. So I think this is something like that. So I did do some digging to look at some of the specifics. And there is a lot of good resources out there. So I just would appreciate your input, how you want to move forward and getting some examples. Do you want to just have me work with one other software? How you guys want to proceed with that?
Well, the chair has always been the spokesperson. Whoever is chair that year would be the spokesperson for any other, as a designated person to the press
So I
or
just-
other towns.
So I just need to clarify that, as I have been, since being here, if I'm my fourth year. It's always been, you might consider, the chief information officer is the town administrator.
Carolyn, yeah.
That's kind of how I've been functioning. Unless you want to do it differently now, that's fine, I'm fine, I just wanna, we gotta make sure, because I usually build it less.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
to
it's
clarify, I think, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I agree with what Joyce said in terms of, you're right, the previous town administrator, it was always understood that if there was, you know, WWLP called or the Gazette or whatever, like everything got funneled through.
Mhm.
And the town administrator was the one who would handle any of those types of inquiries. But it was also is common that they may also be looking for comment from the board itself. And to sort of Joyce's point, it was always whoever was chair, that it was just understood that that was part of the chair's responsibility.
But I think that I don't know how I feel about that, just because of, I don't want to say open meeting law complaints, but the thing with the chair speaking publicly is that they can't be seen to be speaking for the board.
Mhm.
And I think that water can get pretty muddied pretty quickly. Personally. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that, but
Well, I think, Amy, to that point, if you were answering a question, you would make it known that, yes, I am the chair of the select board and I am not speaking for the board because I have not spoken to them. So this is my opinion. That happens all the time.
Well,
Just,
lots of times too, when they're asking you a question, it's already something that we have discussed, and it would be you as a chairperson elaborating on that particular.
or if you don't feel comfortable, just say, look, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I need to talk to the other members of the board.
Or refer to the town administrator, it's your choice.
Yeah, and I'm just raising it just so that there's clarity on, you know, and so Amy, I just want to make sure too, it's not like, oh, the chair's not doing this, it's just, we don't really have a. Before, it just seemed like it was kind of understood and we muddled along, you know.
Yeah.
Can somebody give me an example of what, you know, if I get a direct inquiry from a resident? Like, for instance, I know Joyce got a direct inquiry the other night when Moody Bridge Road was closed. So are we talking something like that or something that's a bit more in-depth?
Question.
I had, well, no, go ahead.
Well, no, my feedback to that is, I mean, as a former select board member, if I knew the answer.
You give it.
I was totally comfortable giving the answer. If I wasn't sure, I would refer back to town administrator. But like, even an example, I can try to figure out where I sent a reporter to Molly, and you had one.
Yeah, they sent, it was to me, it was the Mount Holyoke student, right? And then I sent her to you.
Oh, yeah, that was a different, but there are times where the press has contacted me, and one in particular, Molly had more information on it, so I actually asked Molly if she wanted to speak to them.
Yeah, it was the one in the town hall. They
Yeah,
came and
well,
I didn't
anyways,
remember.
So like,
yeah.
so there are times where I'll filter something and I'll, you know, I'll know if there's somebody who's there with that point.
Yeah,
I mean, no decisions need to be made, but it's areas that we need to work on, like, it might be helpful to have one of you work with you in general to kids.
Well, I think that you have a good list here, as starter. We
Well,
should,
they need to be, but they need policies. to be there.
I know Molly wants to do it, so.
in
No,
our
just-
copious free time.
I just want it done. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm happy to, since I'm the one that opened my mouth about this. But I think, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it from a customer service standpoint, right? Again, we're public servants, people, you know, ask us all sorts of things or have expectations of us, and I just want to make sure that we're all kind of, there's a protocol in place in terms of getting back to people, closing the loop when somebody does ask something that may, require a couple of phone calls to different municipal employees or whatever. And again, that Carolyn's well aware of
And
any of
that's-
those
and
things
that's
that
what
are
I-
going
and
on.
That's what I did. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't have an answer for Randy or him for me, so I explored a little bit more and I knew who to go. I sent a message out to the one person, but he did not see my message. So I did not get a call back or text back right away. So then I said, well, I know where to go, and that would be the dispatcher. Because they would know everything that would be going on, it was a road closure.
Mhm. Well, if it's okay with everybody, I'm happy to work with Carolyn and probably Jennifer too, and
Okay
kind
with
of
me.
come up with a stab at protocols, and that, we can look at other towns and see what they're doing, so we don't create the wheel and then bring it back to everybody.
If you really want to, Molly will allow it.
My cat is handy.
Do you have your hand up?
I did, I just wanted to mention, so you are correct, David Nixon was listed as the PIO, and I have through emergency management. Carolyn is the PIO for me, so if something happens, emergency management wise, fire department wise, even PD wise, it's a joint thing. It might be us making the statement, but I'm gonna be checking with that person to make sure that I'm not getting on the loss. Right, or maybe that's what. And we would be happy to, like, we actually did a PIO training for our regional emergency planning commission. I can try and find those documents for you as well, because we had some really good flow charts through it. And we could even maybe try and put that training together. Again, because we had town administrators, we had select board members, folks that were responsible for that kind of stuff. We actually did training out where on it was quite good. So I'll see if I can find that info for you.
That's good.
I would have called you, Mike, I gave you a break.
Okay. 6.2, so we do need to open the annual town meeting warrant today.
That's 6.7.
Wait, what am I doing?
You did 6.2.
Oh, what, 6.7, opening of the annual town meeting warrant.
Motion to open the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Okay, sorry, motion by Molly, seconded by Joyce. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Can you discuss anything on that? We're just opening it.
I have an updated draft in there, so if you want to look at it. But you don't use it to address, there's nothing to address.
Okay, so 6.8, the town clerk requests for the town to hold early in-person voting, weekday voting for the presidential primary election. If it's fine with everyone, I'll just read the motion that's here. I move that we approve the request of the town clerk for the town of Hadley to hold in-person weekday voting for the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary election on Monday, February 26th, 2024 through Friday, March 1st, 2024 from 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. each day for a total of 25 hours for the week at the town clerk's office.
Second.
All right, motion by me, seconded by Jane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right. And just a reminder that the presidential primary election is being held on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Voting here. Whereas the early voting is at the town clerk's office in town hall. All right. 7.1 town administrators report. Take it away, Carolyn. Oh, sorry, we keep skipping over you.
Yeah. Yeah, you go first.
All right, sorry, we're
You've
going,
given your report for you.
sorry, we're going back to 6.3 fire department and emergency management service update.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give you an update, some exciting news for us. So we have, I will be bringing in the folks that are being appointed, but their onboarding is not complete yet. So I just wanted to let you know that we are jumping off the boat starting February 1st. We'll be going to 24-hour shifts, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That'll be 2 firefighter, EMTs, and paramedics. We have some paramedics on board now. So those shifts, there'll be 4 groups. It's going to be a 24-hour shift. So basically it's a 24 shift on, 24 shift off, 24 shift on, and then 5 days off, and that rotation allows us to go through. We are putting together plans on what their day looks like. So full day during the day, what time that they can start winding down. We're working with Action EMS on the layout because we have 2 sleeping quarters at our central station right now, and we feel it's critical that our firefighters are obviously at the center station. So we are working with Action on basically during the day, 70% of our calls are between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. So during the day, Action EMS will be parking their ambulance as they do now at our center station. At around 7:30, 7 to 8 o'clock, they will then relocate to our north station where they will be able to sleep or, be prepared for the next call. So they'll be operating out of there, and our full-time folks will be at the center station. Be advised that we will have our basic ambulance available. So if there is a call, there's no delay in patient care. We've done ad nauseum runs to see what the run time is. If anything, I think it's probably going to improve. It's going to improve the service 100%. So it'll give our call force folks and myself and the deputy chief, who notoriously get called out at 2 a.m. to go to a fire alarm, somebody cooking or a Greenleaf's or whatever. We'll have an opportunity to have that crew go out there and do that.
And that's starting when?
February 1st.
Meaning you will get a break?
Possibly, yes. We will still be available for the major calls, obviously.
Possibly is not the correct answer.
Yes, we will be getting a break, yes. Maybe I can grow some of this lovely hair. But
That sounds.
anyway, so this is extremely
Come a
exciting.
long way from a volunteer service in a short time, and you've done a great job. Thank you.
I appreciate it. On the emergency management side, I just wanted to let you know that we did receive our $25,000 grant for our hazard mitigation plan update. And we are in the process, it's just in the process of the contracts being signed right now. Carolyn got the information out to the state, so hopefully we'll be seeing that. It'll go out for procurement to get somebody to do it. So Pioneer Valley or Ty and Bond or whatever. It is federal funding, so we do have to get 3 price quotes on it, have to follow federal procurement. I've done 2 of them already, but we will be making requests of folks to be a part of that. It's pretty extensive. It's 6 meetings. There's all sorts of paperwork with it. It then comes to you guys for approval, or actually, yeah, you approve first, then it has to go to FEMA for approval. But what that does is that will allow us to, again, go for hazard mitigation planning funding, potentially something with the levy, things like that. That plan needs to be in place and updated. We've waited over 2 years to get that funding put in place. They ran out of money on it. So we finally received word that we're going to be getting that as well. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Good work.
Thank
One
you.
quick
Very
question.
Yes.
Whose DOT vehicle up at the North Station or our station?
So we have one at Center Station and one at North. There's a gentleman who lives up in, I think on Shattuck Road or something, and they have to park it in a municipal building.
Oh,
So they're parking it there and then they drive home.
okay,
We have one in the Cal Ripken lot as well.
yeah,
We do that. A lot of departments do that. Even the state fire marshal, I believe he parks in West Hampton or something, just,
Okay.
because they have to park it in municipal,
good to know.
municipal parking lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
See you soon.
All right, back to Carolyn, Town Administrator's Report.
I don't know, I can't open it.
So I do want to go to the HR hiring. It is an example of our compensation for our employees, but we've had a really tough time trying to fill some of these positions. One of them is the assistant treasurer. So we are going to, Troy and Linda agreed that they would be going towards, the temp agency. To try to fill that spot, and they had some success with that, with Jennifers. And Jennifer Stewart down at W. So, I know Linda has a meeting with the agency tomorrow. Have the media, you can check that off the list. That is no longer read, it will be off that list, so we are still, I think it's not still looking for available. Choice here, if you need to update anything on that.
Got so these two men down.
How many, where are we at with DPW, Troy?
So DPW, we're stale. I've pulled it down and refreshed it a few times. We're just not getting any applicants at this time.
How many bodies do we need, Troy?
Ideally 2, Randy.
Okay, thank you.
Randy's gonna sign up.
Yeah. I'll volunteer.
I can.
Sons?
No.
So the classification and compensation plan gave you an update on that. The cable renewal contract that's moving along, and I am excited that Spectrum has agreed to pursue gap funding for some of those underserved, those that don't have the cable connectivity. They're pursuing that.
How would that work?
They pursue funding to make connections.
From the federal government or something?
Alex. We just don't want to talk too much on it because it's a strict report, but you're just fulfilling this with information on this report.
Yeah, so they're going through an MBI grant, which is the Massachusetts Broadband Institute. They get, I believe, they get money from the federal government and they disperse it out to underserved areas in the Commonwealth.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
So thanks, that definitely, at least.
Yeah, we're asking.
Yeah, and it's really great that Spectrum's doing it, so.
Perfect.
It's definitely something off our shoulders, and hopefully we'll go into get into the right direction with this.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
DPW building committee met today and reviewed the RFQ for the OPM and talked about a timeline for the whole project because we need a date in that needs to go into the RFQ information package. So it was good review, it was a very good discussion, a great committee. The girls softball field, the site visit took place today. There's 3 companies that which is great, which showed up. So wait to see what the proposals look like. You had that presentation tonight with Municipal Solar. Russell School, we're just waiting for all of the signatures to be done with the contracts. In Town Hall Collins, as you can see, the weather conditions are not appropriate for painting. So that's gonna be on hold for a month or 2, I'm sure. Skipping down. The annual town meeting, just reminders, May 2nd at Hopkins Academy. I do want to let you know about the town hall. Gary's right, it is tough to get some estimates, a company to come out, but we are utilizing a company that we used before. Who's going to be employee who've been submitted some information. They're looking at some bold stuff to get some estimation so that we can send them over to CPA. And what we're looking at, just so you know, is painting, whatever that they're going to allow us to do on the outside of that. We're also looking at replacing the windows and we want to look at the cement. So.
So this won't be for annual town meeting,
I hope so.
will it?
Yeah, I hope so. If we can get the application, if we can get the estimate in, we get the application's pretty straightforward. So. And I need to reach out. I need to get some information back to you there. So I'll put that in the email tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, section 9, any items for future discussion that we would like to add to a future meeting? All right.
And just my apologies, we were able to get to the public comment. Right.
The public comment policy, yeah, that was delayed again, I'm sorry. I was out sick a couple of days and there's just
not enough time to write a policy and catch back up. But it will be for your next meeting.
Okay. All right, any liaison reports?
Yes.
All right,
The Age and Dementia Friendly Group at the Hadley Senior Center had got a grant from Massachusetts, like Councils on Aging and Directors to run a memory cafe, which is for caregivers and people who have memory loss. It will happen 5 times. February 28th, March 20th, April 24th, May 15th, and June 5th. This will be a gathering here where people can come to an accepting space and just have fun. There'll be activities, there'll be food, there'll be socializing. And it's open to any caregiver and their senior person with memory issues. You do not have to be a Hadley resident.
all right, excellent. Anyone else with a liaison report? All right. Announcements.
Our condolences tonight to the family of Richard Costick. He was a Hadley native and they had a farm here in Hadley for many years. He grew up on a farm here in Hadley, and Cindy Malik passed away the other day, and our condolences to Ellie and David and his wife on her passing.
I'd also like to add John Allen on the passing of Heidi.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
Well, that's not publicized yet. Can't do that
Why does it have to be published?
because it has, right?
It's a past practice policy. Yeah, we decided to wait until it was
sorry.
in the newspapers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. So it's kind of hard, but that's a hard one.
Yeah.
So we have a snow fairy in town. And yesterday she made quite the rounds, I guess, but this was my gift yesterday.
Very nice.
And my daughter received a, I believe a headband for running. But there were, when I posted it, there was many other people in town that chimed in and said that they had received things in their mailbox or paper box or wherever they had found theirs. So somebody is going around and they're just dropping these off randomly at different people. So whoever this snow fairy is, they've been doing a lot of work. So thank you very much out there. And we may find out who you are eventually and give you a proper thank you. But anyway, it was very nice. It's very warm. I love it. So thank you from myself and all the others that you gave to yesterday and the snowstorm. Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements? Okay, can I get actually,
I can move. I have it here.
oh, you want to, okay, go for it.
I move that we move into executive session to discuss strategic session preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel and discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the newly formed municipal employees union, and to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel, building inspector, and to conduct strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body, of the public body's anticipated litigation. Need a second.
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 Motion by Jane, seconded by me. Can I can't second.
Second.
All right, seconded by Joyce. All right, as chair of the Hadley Select Board, I state that the board has moved and seconded to enter into executive session, and that I state that discussing the matter in open session will have a detrimental impact on the bargaining position of the town of Hadley, and also not to reconvene in open session. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Keegan.
Yes.
Chungalo.
Yes.
Parsons.
Yes.
Nevin Smith.
Yes.
Isaac.
Yes.
Thank you.